In this video, we're going to wire up our DC disconnect and wire our DC input to our inverter. We're going to run this conduit and we're going to land these wires in the appropriate locations. So let's do that.
So that when you come back to this, you say, as you can see,
we've run the conduit from the DC disconnect into our inverter. We have our wires that we've run through there, and the next thing is to land them in the appropriate spot. So let's go to each location and land those wires right now. Here we are at our DC disconnect. We have our 3 wires that we just brought in from our inverter that we connected into our inverter. So this will be leaving our switch. Coming into our switch from our conduit above, from our roof in metal, is our ground, and we have a single string up there, so we have a negative, or ground, in this case it's our grounded current carrying conductor, and then our positive or ungrounded conductor. We can know they're grounded and ungrounded from their color. So we're going to land these 3 wires in the box. These are the output wires, so let's land each of these wires right now in their correct location. The PV input enters the top of the switch, and that is the place we put it. We don't put this in the bottom of the switch. The bottom of the switch is reserved for the inverter. You should remember that from class. So I'll put this in here. These switches come in 3-pole typically. And in our case, we're actually going to be using only one, and that's just fine. Best practices would say that we mount, or not mount, but land our ground wires first. First to land and last to remove. That's best safe procedure. So now my grounds have landed on my ground bar, which also grounds this box. I put my positives into the switch, my ungrounded conductors, and that's fine. This is my grounded conductor, and it does not break through the switch. It stays continuous. So we're just going to do a terminal block, or in this case a Polaris connector. It's an insulated bus bar, basically. And this wire does not ever get broken, ever, 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 through a switch, and so we leave it connected here, and this is very handy because we can use it when we test our voltage after we apply power here. So we've landed our negative or grounded conductor on the bus bar. I put my positive from the PV in the top of the switch, inverter, DC input on the bottom of the switch. My grounds are all here in my grounding bar, and everything here visually looks like it's in the right spot. And now at this point I'm going to go over to the inverter and land these 3 wires in the appropriate place in the inverter. Every inverter internal guts are going to look different. So in this case we have opportunity for 3 strings. So we have 3 positive and 3 negative locations, and then a very specific DC grounding point. Inside our inverter we have a point over here for grounding, that's our AC. And over here we have our DC, and there's actually a 3rd point in here that is our grounding electrode terminal, and that's another wire we've yet to install yet. So I'm now going to land the wires for the DC input into the inverter. Okay. So we've landed our DC input wires into our inverter, and we have them in our DC disconnect. So at this point, we're ready to wire the AC side.